Well, welcome everyone to Empowering Beyond, harnessing artificial intelligence, empowering transformational business models. The power of AI can drive exponential outcomes if it is combined with the right data sets and use cases. And with that, I will let the panelists introduce themselves. Steve, you want to go first?
Great. Hey, thank you, Larry. Hi, my name is Steve Phillpott. I'm the SVP CIO for Illumina. Illumina is a leading genomics sequencing company, and I've been here for about 7 or 8 months. Prior to that, I was the SVP CIO for Western Digital, the world's largest storage provider. And I was there for about 8 years and built out their enterprise data management platform, including their big data analytics capabilities. And then I also built out their digital analytics office, which was a team of data scientists, data engineers, and developers that built some of the company's advanced predictive analytics. Great to be here, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Rashmi Kumar. I'm Senior Vice President and Global CIO at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Prior to this, I was Pharma Business Unit CIO as well as Global Chief Architect at McKesson, which is a very large healthcare company. I've played various CTO and Chief Architect roles at companies like Toyota and Southern California Edison, blended with some management consulting roles as well. I grew up in the data space from integration to analytics and found the path to be very passionate about data and analytics, then big data, as well as AI and machine learning. I'm very excited to be part of this panel.
Thank you. Rajendra?
I'm Raj Mishra, Senior Vice President for Products and Delivery at Infinite Computer Solutions. I lead the delivery organization within Infinite, focusing primarily on healthcare payer organizations, BPaaS, product and process improvement and innovation. Prior to Infinite, I was leading the product division for the MMIS division of healthcare, Moderator Healthcare, where we created all kinds of healthcare products, and we were the physical vendors for roughly 15 states. Infinite has been at the helm of providing services around the world for both private and public sectors. And we have successfully implemented products and services which are AI-driven, built on powerful algorithms. Happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Great. You hear the term AI being used all the time, and especially on TV, commercials. I'm kind of getting sick of all the vendors saying that they can transform your business with their help and expertise in AI. Right. For those of us who've actually developed and implemented successful AI projects that actually change the business, know it's not that easy. And we've all done that. You also hear the term machine learning thrown around. And I sometimes hear people, even IT executives, kind of interchange machine learning with artificial intelligence. And I will just tell you, I do not believe, and this is just Larry speaking, that AI and machine learning are the same thing, but we can certainly have that debate.
Right.
I believe machine learning refers more to robotic process automation, which we're very successful in rolling out over 100 bots. But AI really takes it to the next level, harnessing the power of advanced analytics, natural language processing, or NLP, so the computer can really start to learn and solve complex business problems. So my first question to the panelists is, what do you think the definition of AI truly is? And how do you relate that to machine learning or NLP?
I can go here. So look, data has been there. The quantity of it has exploded. I remember going back to early 90s when I was working in the mathematical model field. I'm a metallurgical engineer. I worked in steel making, and I had applied AI at that time. It was a very simple learning model to predict something that's going on in steel. But so the concept of artificial intelligence, which I think implies to having machine interpret swaths of data for an answer. I could only go one level deep of neural network, which was the technique I applied, and machine learning could be another technique. NLP is another technique. Image recognition is another technique, but all those techniques come together to serve a purpose, which is artificial intelligence, where we can train a machine to do the task that will take much longer or incomprehensible for a human being.
You would put AI as kind of an umbrella over all of those other technologies.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good way to say that. What about you all?
Yeah, Larry, you picked the first question that can take up the whole session just by having this particular debate. But it is, you're spot on. It's exactly some of the discussions out there where the terms get intertwined, together. And I like your use of the term umbrella. So kind of looking at AI as an umbrella term for machines that simulate human intelligence. And AI is a really generic and broad category, and it's about replacing human decision-making with more sophisticated technologies. Now, these tasks are easy for us as humans, but they're hard for computers. What's really interesting, and Rashmi kind of talked about it back in the 1990s, but AI was created back in the 1960s, the concept, and what's happening now is the advancement of technology that enables it. Computers are faster, networks are faster, storage is faster, GPUs are out there. So that's kind of the broad, let's call it AI umbrella. Now underneath that AI umbrella is the subset of AI, machine learning, which is more of a set of algorithms that train data sets to make predictions, to take actions or to optimize systems. Now, a lot of time, and most of the time, that's machine related data, but it's a subset. Machine learning is a subset of AI. So now you get into the next one you brought up, which is NLP. And same as with machine learning, NLP is a subset of AI, but it's the subset of AI that focuses specifically on language and even more specifically, written language. Again, it can use machine learning. You see it in chatbots. And so we'll probably talk about that in some of the questions, is chatbots are a good example of, the use of NLP and the associated technologies that are that go with that. So you've got AI, you've got machine learning. Now, one aspect of machine learning is now using algorithms to model the data, but model the data as graphs. Model the data as graphs of humans, and what it's trying to do is actually mimic human thinking. What's interesting about deep learning is it is the closest to getting us back to the original definition of AI, replacing human decision-making with more specific technology. So you kind of have this hierarchy: AI, machine learning, deep learning. Now, the interesting one that you brought up, and here's where the debate starts maybe, is RPA. Because RPA, if you look at RPA uses more structured input and logic, whereas AI tends to use more structured input and develop its own logic. RPA is software that mimics human action. AI is simulating human intelligence and actions. So there's these subtle little differences, but what's happening is with RPA, now they're trying to bring in aspects of AI and machine learning into RPA to kind of give it advanced capabilities. So I kind of broadly put it in the AI bucket, but it has the ability to kind of leverage some of that technology. So that's probably my best abbreviated as far as how these things kind of fit together.
And just to add to that is RPA combined with AI and ML will take us to what I call is intelligent process automation.
Yes.
Which
way to say it.
There are some companies which are trying to do it, but still it's an untapped area from developing product and technologies which can take the mimicking of the human process, which is the RPA, take the AI, ML, NLP, image recognition, deep learning, convolutional CNN neural networks, and create a more intelligent end-to-end view of process intelligence, because now you can have machine to understand that interface between human and computer and what's happening where, and mine the data to be able to come out with a process mining engine, which then creates an intelligent process automation. And
well, Stephen, I'm glad you brought up chatbots and how natural language processing fits into that. Because the example I like to use to sort of explain it is, you can use NLP to say read a customer's email, and it will figure out what that customer is actually asking you to do, and that you can now take machine learning, transfer that into code, and actually go get the data you need and respond, whether that be in a chat or an email or anything, which is great technology. So, Raj?
Yeah, and I think Rashmi and Steve have broadly covered it. I totally agree. Algorithms are a subset of AI. Today, like algorithms, like one of the social media platforms, right? Algorithm that has replaced all our friends and sponsored content are often associated with AI. But there's a key distinction and variation to it. So as Steve put it, right, it's more of a subset of AI. And as Rashmi added it, and I think even Steve said some of the things that, okay, the RPA is nothing but a set of instructions, a formula for processing data. Now, AI takes this to another level. It can be a set of algorithms with RPAs that have the capacity to change and rewrite themselves in response to the data that has been inputted, hence displaying intelligence.
Great, thank you. So my next question is, how do you choose the best use cases for your AI initiatives and really quantify ROI? In my experience, this was critical and gave us the opportunity to really challenge business leaders to think outside the box, to transform their business process and not just remove some keystrokes from an existing potentially flawed process. So when we asked, we got almost 100 ideas, and when we sorted them out, we went, you're not really moving the needle here. So this isn't probably the best use case.
I would go back to 6 or 7 years ago. I believe Tom Davenport coined the term offensive and defensive use cases, right? So something that adds to your top line and something that adds to your bottom line. And I think as leaders, we have to focus on both kinds of use cases. Now, the improving your top line or offensive use cases have become even more relevant in this post-COVID era, where the digitalization is accelerated. When you look at digitalization of business process, either it's a company like HPE, where we are going to a as a service and subscription model for compute and storage, or you think of a company like Subway, which needs to now fulfill orders electronically, or Chipotle for that example. Digital products, subscription-based products create enormous amount of data. We can call it digital exhaust. And if you don't apply machine to learn from that exhaust and create actionable business action based on customers' behavior and interaction with your digital product, you will not be successful because somebody else is doing that today, right? So I think these were important in the past, but a lot of time when data leader talk to business leader about offensive use cases, they would say, oh, we are running fine, we don't need to move to digital, right? But today, every COO, CEO is thinking, how do I convert to a digital framework? Data layer, analytics layer, as well as AI ML layer has become core competency of the company to be able to quickly understand how the products are behaving, how customers are using. I do have ARR, but are they going to do renewal? What is my new recurring revenue from the same business model? And all that is not possible manually. It needs to be done through an AI ML model. And now when you talk of digitalization, the front end shiny user experience portal for a customer is not digital. What is digital is transformation of your front to end business process. COVID has made us realize that now your supply chain needs to be digital, and you need to have insight into the supply chain. What's going on with silicon in the market right now is impacting car makers, right? So how do you have predictive capabilities in your organization to understand the supply chain impact of changes in the market and give that visibility out to the customers? To say, you need to put your order in early because we are seeing supply chain disruptions and we need to forecast it better to be able to fulfill it better. Think about mining data across the globe to predicting the supply chain disruptions. I'm talking almost 5 years ago or 6 years ago when we did not have these disruptions, but at McKesson, this is public information, our suppliers had said they cannot have a good quarter because they did not have good forecast from companies, the wholesaler or pharma distributors, so that they can plan their generic demand from drug supply chain perspective. The kind of disruptions every product is facing today in the marketplace, it's impossible to comprehend it manually, and we need AI and ML to be able to understand impact of different environmental, geopolitical demand on the need of a particular product and the needs and wants of the customers, and match it to enable your company to be able to serve the right products to the right customers.
Raj, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we all strive to make better decisions. I think, and driving these efforts with data, however, is new to some extent, right? And for most, data is an unfamiliar asset. I mean, with different sorts of properties, right? Identifying the right data set for a use case can be a challenge. It's here where most of the companies fail at AI. I think one of the key enablers for choosing a use case for AI is linking the organizational goals to what is to be achieved, followed by prioritizing them. For example, your organization's strategic initiatives can be linked to AI, which then becomes your enabler to achieve those goals for your business. Most of the organizations actually pick use cases which are their problem areas or the problem factors or the operational issues that they have, and immediately start implementation of AI to solve these operational gaps. While some organizations adopt AI just as a trend, and both of which leads to failure in implementation. So if an organization implement AI on operations, the first step would be to link it to the strategic goal. And in that case would be just cost savings in operations. Hence monetization through savings. It can be linked to the strategic goal and further linking operations by identifying gaps. I think these are some basic strategies where most of the organizations are not able to cater and understand where AI is truly useful, and those are the enablers kind of thing for the organization.
Okay. Well, Steve, how did you find use cases at Western Digital and not at Illumina?
Yeah, so I think we've kind of touched on the fact that this is actually one of the harder parts of building out an advanced analytics program, is kind of the governance around initiatives and ROI, et cetera. So I'll give you kind of a couple use cases, and then I'll go into kind of how we did it. But we had one use case where we had a couple really smart data scientists working on algorithms. The problem was they had been working on it for years and years. And so you start taking a look at, okay, well, are there other things that they could be working on that could come to fruition quicker that would be a more valuable use of their time? Or we had the other use case of somebody that came up with a phenomenal algorithm for the manufacturing side. It's just like, gosh, this is going to save us all this money. And then all of a sudden we realized, oh my gosh, do you know how much it's going to take to get this into production and sustain it going forward? And it was like, oh, and it blew out the ROI. So what we developed was, we called it rapid learning cycles, rapid production cycles, and rapid scaling cycles. And the rapid learning cycles were typically 8 to 12 week engagements where we were trying to just understand the value proposition, understand kind of a little bit of the ROI, understand the feasibility. And we had prioritization processes for these, but what it allowed us to do was ensure that we had our highly skilled, very scarce data science resources working on the most important things. And hey, if we couldn't get at the end of that 12 plus or minus weeks to a point where we had visibility, then we'd kind of table it. Then we went into rapid production cycles. How do you initially get into production? And then the rapid scaling cycles. But that type of governance allowed us to take a look at the best use cases for prioritization on not only developing it, but getting it into production and then scaling it.
Great. Let's talk about big data. So how do you think big data combined with artificial intelligence and analytics through data scientists and others can really power new business models?
So as I talked about digitalization and moving to more subscription-based product and services going forward, right? So big data is created because of what Steve said in the beginning, that technology is now available, and combined with digitalization of the product and services, which is becoming what I call this digital exhaust, right? So it's just a byproduct of how much technology is shaping every company going forward. And it enables us to be in constant touch with our products and our customers. And that creates a better understanding of our customer needs and wants going forward, which kind of, if the company is smart, or the people, as Steve mentioned about, we don't need the entire company to be AI ninjas, but if we have few strong talent, they can find that needle in the haystacks from understanding really deeply what our customers are looking for, providing that input to the product leaders within the company, and tweak our product or launch new product based on what we are seeing being used in the organizations, right? If I look at healthcare now, all the data is there. There is new frontiers to be achieved because of compute being available. And Steve works for Illumina. Nobody else can explain this better than him. But when I was at McKesson working with oncology units, we applied computer vision to get all the lab information from breast cancer perspective, from BRCA1, BRCA genes, mapped it with EMR data. And we did not finish this because of the accuracy at that point of computer vision reading of the lab's data. But you can really combine it with EMR data and create a clinical pathways, which is 70–80% correct, helping doctors or oncologists make their decisions around how to treat this, this particular patient. The same way, if you look at drug discovery, if you look at trial data, a lot of things which wasn't possible before, and I'm just using healthcare as an example. If you look at what happened to utilities with smart meters and having 15-second meter data available compared to what was available once a month, real-time pricing happened, the peak load behavior changed within states, and utilities could become more green because now they're not generating or transmitting at the peak load, which was originally a peak load. So this is an example of how consumer behavior can change because of the tweaking that you can do to product and services. And I'll just add a point to it, which is around ethical AI. It's a big topic. I'm in a public board now, and being aware of ESG standards for companies, this is becoming a big topic. But I still feel that in a very ethical way, without using customer specific privacy data, but analyzing macro level usage and understanding of the usage better, we can launch new product and services, change people's behavior, and drive better alignment of customer and the companies going forward.
Okay.
And
Roger,
Rajmi,
Steve?
you're exactly right though on the creating of new business models in kind of the whole broader healthcare space, especially with COVID going on. You know, the data that we have, the AI technologies. I mean, just think about a couple examples that we have is the rapid pace of innovation on the creation of vaccines, you know, the ability to study these proteins and, you know, use that data in AI to kind of, you know, help identify the immune responses. You've got other uses of data and AI where you've got health organizations which are trying to identify which individuals are going to be at the greatest risk of COVID-19 outcomes. And then you can even take it to the customer side, which is where Rashmi was going also, which is around AI-enabled call centers. Because now you're getting all these requests, you know, well, gosh, am I in a high-risk group? You know, what's happening with this vaccine? So we're seeing it enable, we're seeing data and AI enable a lot of these technologies, and the whole pandemic has accelerated in many cases.
Yeah, no, you make a good point, and there's no doubt that I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that AI, big data, really was a key factor in these vaccines being created so quickly.
And I think both Rashmi and Steve have hit the nails over here. Essentially, from my perspective, right, AI or data is all about knowing your customer. In our case, is the member, the patient. If you ask me, what's my number one priority in healthcare is member retention. That's my priority number one. How the quality of services I can provide to a member, his experience, be it on the digital side, on the portal side, or the care that is being offered to it. And I think pandemic has opened up so many things. We have this telehealth, the remote patient monitoring, where the patient, provider, the social manager, all interacting in a seamless fashion, better quality of care, exchange of PHI health information in a very secure fashion. So these are some things which I feel that knowing your customers will essentially drive the way you want to innovate and then apply your AI on those.
Great. Okay, so now I want to talk about the elephant in the room as it pertains to AI. And what I mean by that is, how do you think AI will change the future of work? So I've had many friends, family, business leaders, HR professionals ask me point blank, is AI going to destroy jobs and lead to massive layoffs? So what have you done in your organization to manage what I'll call the human change management component of implementing AI? So either workers are retrained to perform more complicated tasks, but it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm at a point right now, I can't hire enough people to do tech work. So the demand with this digitalization, even in this post-COVID era, the demand for technology is growing faster than we can train people to work on technology. I think the question is right, where it means that we will not have people who want to work with hands, and we will need more people who want to work with brains. So elephant in the room is right? We need to train more people who can do these technological work. But at the same time, I heard that this Memorial Day, we will not have enough gas at the gas station because we don't have lorry drivers. So guess what? Autonomous car, connected car can solve that problem, and that can be built because of AI. McDonald's is paying people even to come to interview with them. They cannot hire enough people. So I feel like there are not enough people who want to do work by their hands at this point, right? And the flip side argument, playing devil's advocate to the point that there will not be jobs for people because AI is taking it away. I'm like, where are those people who are looking for these jobs to do with hands, right? So if we look at it globally, and I think COVID is also changing people's mindset and driving them towards what's important in life. Our generation, where we were go, work. Next 87 million generation of Gen Y or Gen Zs, they're not about that. And this COVID has given them renewed awareness about experiences versus ownership that we had. So my whole argument is we need more people who can do the work that's needed for more automation, better automation around AI and machine learning, as Steve mentioned, as well as digitalization of the capabilities, versus not having enough jobs for people to be able to do the work just because of AI. I think a year ago, I would argue on that topic differently than what I'm doing it a year later, because the impact that I have seen because of COVID, honestly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, this is a this is an interesting topic. Lots of debate and discussion on it. But we've actually been dealing with this for decades. This isn't the concept isn't new. Now, I haven't gone through many airports recently, but when you're going through the San Jose or the Austin airport, you could actually see these automated coffee making machines. Big arms go out and it basically automatically makes your coffee. It's like a robot barista. And the evolution of this automation journey has been with us for decades. I can remember reading a business article about, if you go back to kind of the telephone networks, when they were patching phones from one person to another, and there was somebody physically patching it. Along came circuit boards, and hundreds of thousands of jobs went away. Hundreds of thousands of jobs went away, almost in a very, very short period of time. But what happened is the jobs didn't actually go away. The change of the nature of work is what happened. The jobs went to a different area. They went to higher value activities. They created new opportunities. And so that's been happening along the whole automation journey that we've been on. Now, what's happening with AI and machine learning is we might be accelerating that a little bit. But to Rajmi's point is, we can't find enough people for a variety of these things. So we're going to need this going forward. I think the conversations we need to have with our organizations is on the change of the nature of work and moving them to higher value activities as we move forward.
Great. Raj?
And Larry, in our case, Infinite is a services as well as a product-driven organization. So what that means is that we are the front foot of this chain, and hence our workforce has to be well equipped and trained. The way we do it is that we keep our own update and fresh through initiatives like Center of Excellence for Data Analytics, where we have dedicated resources to research algorithms to validate the accuracy levels, techniques of data visualization, and more important, the practicing of the continuous improvements in the data lifecycle management. So these are something that we try to inculcate. It's difficult to retrain and all those pieces, but this is something which we try to improve ourselves, retrain the employees, and they are inculcate the culture wherein the research is the primary goal for them.
Okay. So every time I do a session, and I've done lots over my career, I try to give the audience something specific that they can take back to their organization and actually implement right away. So let me ask each of you, can you recommend any specific tools that you chose to help you implement AI? Did you use IBM Watson, Google Cloud AI, Microsoft Azure AI, or did you develop models in-house? And on top of that, what one or two pieces of advice would you give organizations and CIOs that are searching for a strategic partner or vendor to come in and help them get going with AI?
Yeah, more than tools, what I did in my last role is I created a broad-based data science AI ML training across the board. So I trained almost 150 folks across the company on a boot camp, which was 14 weeks long, and it was training people in the AI ML skills. I also created a more middle management level program, which was a shorter program, but trying to have people think in terms of data. And then an executive, very senior level program, which was a couple of hours kind of boot camp on how to think. company leadership still are making decisions based on gut and not based on data. And how do we enable them to think in terms of more data and make them more thinking from outside in perspective, means customer in perspective, versus the old school 3-value discipline that I'm about excellent product or operational excellence, or how we serve from inside out versus outside in. And AI and ML can help executives from that perspective tremendously.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, no, the comments, I don't know if I'd really recommend any specific tools. The space out there is so dynamic right now. I think the concept on the tools side is keep a flexible and scalable platform, because whatever you're working on today is going to change in 3 months. It's going to change again in 6 months. Flexible, scalable, agile, kind of on the platform, and you can find pros and cons, across all the technologies that you've mentioned. But I do like where Rashmi was going, which is on kind of the training aspect of that. And let's take that back to the automation and the people and the headcount discussion we just had a minute ago. There's a lot of, speaking of tools and technologies, there's a lot of these algorithms that are coming out. They're auto machine learning, auto ML type of algorithms. And what's happening is computers are generating machine learning algorithms. And what's happening is that they're generating them, and in some of the AI contests, they're winning. So they're actually very, very good, very, very sophisticated algorithms. Well, what that's going to do is that's going to actually allow your limited data science resource to not have to focus on the bottom 70 or 80% of kind of building some of this. They can take one of these auto ML type of baselines and then optimize it for their use case, their workload, their industry specifically. And that's kind of what we did inside of Western Digital. Was in that digital analytics office, there was a dozen, 8 to 12 different groups building machine learning for image analytics. And we built a common image machine learning algorithm application that then we pushed out to all the different groups so that they could then optimize it for there. So I think the takeaway here is look at auto ML technologies as an accelerator and as a way to optimize your data science resources.
Good advice. Raj?
So Larry and Steve, I think, and Rashmi have again said all the things which I would like to say. But see, as Steve said, right, no single organization can master all of AI. So the usage of tools and platforms is subjective to the type of vertical and expected outcomes of that project, right? So we partner with IBM Watson, we partner with Google Health, we partner with Microsoft Azure, depending upon what is the vertical, what we are trying to achieve over here, right? But from my perspective, I look at least 3 aspects in AI. Since it's a strategic initiative, I look at 3 things. I look at a partner who has the capacity to deliver and scale, as well as collaborate with us on research initiatives that would bring edge to what you're trying to achieve. But then a research partner who analyzes, in my case, the physician's use of referral data, how to measure organizations' analytics maturity. So that's the second aspect which I look at it in terms of when I'm selecting a partner. And then, of course, an in-house team, irrespective of the size, to inculcate that whole culture of research and learning within the organization for the success of what I'm trying to do or what my initiatives are. So this is the way I try to treat and use all this IBM Watson or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure for migration, or depending on what kind of initiatives I'm looking for.
Perfect. That's great advice. So we are coming down to the wire here in the last minute or so. So I definitely wanted to thank my panel of experts. And I know that everybody who's going to be watching this webinar are going to get a lot of great information out of it and lots of things to take back. So with that, are there any brief closing comments anybody would like to make?
I think it's a secret weapon for every company, and if they don't have a strategy around it, please go ahead and build it. Good
point. Yes, get a business strategy together, and get the other thing I would say is find a business partner that can help champion it. Absolutely.
Exactly. Right. And then we talked a little bit about, kind of the whole prioritization of, use cases. These tend to be shiny objects, and everybody can run to the new shiny objects. So having a good, whether you call it governance or ability to kind of take a look at how to optimize your scarce data science, data engineering resources would be very valuable in the early stages. And this is also an area where a partner might be able to help accelerate you on that journey.
Yeah, we've talked about data scientists, and clearly, at least from my vantage point and what I've seen and talked to other organizations, they're a rare commodity and expensive.
Well, and we're all competing for it. So Rajmi's trying to get mine. I'm trying to get Raj's. We're all trying to grab everybody else's.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just to add on, right, Larry and team, right? See, the AI still needs tons of research, emotional intelligence, and other human brain dimensions to mature. However, for the foreseeable future, right, as you spoke in the initial, right, the most promising uses of AI will not involve computers replacing people, but rather people and computers working together like super minds to do the cognitive and the physical tasks that could not be done before. So that's the way I look at it.
I think that's a great way to end. The computers and the people need to work together to be successful with AI. So again, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.